Welcome to my show. A guest here. His name is Nathan Smolensky. Mr.
Yep.
Nathan, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you very much. And thanks for the time and the opportunity, Mr. Nathan. Firstly, you are an author. You are also a strategist and a consultant. Can you please, Mr. Nathan, discuss more about yourself and how you are doing currently now, Mr. Nathan?
So, one of the things I like to say, I've worn a lot of hats within the space of bridge building, political innovation. I was the director of a state party, the Florida Forward Party, for several years. I've been an organizer. I've written lots of articles, and I've worked with a lot of different groups and a lot of different functions. My background is marketing and communications, and I am someone who has worked in this space for a long time, trying to bring something of a practical mindset, something of an analytical mindset, and also something of a business mindset uh, to these spaces because I think there is just so much value in not only making a message that is positive, which we have so many positive messages that I know are shared through your show and others, but messages that can have reach and that can resonate with a great many different audiences. So.
Yeah.
That is sort of my driving goal, and that's also what led me to write this book, Common Ground from the Ground Up.
Exactly. And that is where I would like to dive to. From the experience you've had, from every groups and every community you found yourself, an article you've written, you've decided to put more of it into a book. Common ground from the ground up. Can you please, Mr. Nathan, discuss more on the book? And do you also plan to write more books in the coming future, Mr. Nathan?
Right now, my focus is on this book and giving it the best reach that it can get. So, um, it is a book about what it takes to have constructive dialogue, what it takes to have productive dialogue about difficult issues. It's also exploring what I like to say are the upstream drivers of division, the factors that make it so hard for us to understand each other and have meaningful conversations, and then the downstream impacts that we can have if we do embrace a more positive mindset and a more positive approach to conversation.
Yes, I completely agree. And that is why I would like to dive to that point communication, conversation. In this light that we are currently, there is a very powerful tool we need to know how to use. And it's the way we need to communicate with people, the way we need to speak to people, the way we know when to talk, and the time we know when to not talk, the time to know when we should react, and the time we should know when not to react. These are things that is very necessary. If one can know these little tools, it can make someone tremendously great. Honestly speaking, conversation is powerful. And that is why I would like to dive to that aspect, Mr. Nathan. Why do you think so many conversations today, especially the political ones, feels like battles rather than opportunities to connect, to explore, and to understand each other, Mr. Nathan?
So there are a few factors that I do explore a little in the book. Um, I think by and large, it is because the way we're used to talking about politics is the way we're used to hearing about politics. This is what politicians and media use. And what is most effective for them is not really persuasive. It is a kind of argument that is about affirming and it is about energizing. It is, we believe in this. And there's no space that it creates for discussion. It is simply, we believe in this, this is the right way to do things. And it's very effective at riling up your team, at getting donors to donate when you're dealing with politicians, at getting voters to show up, the ones who are going to vote for you anyway if they do vote. Um, it works in these political and media spheres, and also gets people watching, it gets people energized, it gets people giving money. Um, but it's not very good for conversation. It doesn't work at all when we're trying to reach someone who doesn't agree with us because we're not used to operating in those spaces. And it's so valuable to do that. And I think that's what people have lost sight of. And that's where, my hope is there's a demand that needs to be met. And I hope my book can do a little to meet that demand.
Definitely, it's definitely, and that is the point. Having a direct say will make it difficult for people to communicate and have conversations, and that is why we need to relieve and de-escalate some tension within ourselves. When we reduce what we have, we give ourselves some openness. Then we can start to make some kind of dialogue, and that is why I would like to dive to the areas or tools you think one can use in communication to de escalate tension during a very serious disagreement. Can you please, Mr. Nathan, share one or two go to communication tools that you know in your experience that de escalate tension during disagreements, Mr. Nathan?
So, the first thing I talk about as the core of a positive approach, a constructive approach, is the mindset. It is being curious. Um, this is listening, but listening is a product of wanting to listen. And this is the crucial motivation is appreciate that you're you're going to learn from different perspectives, that you have a lot to learn from different perspectives. That gives you the willingness to hear people out, to work to better understand them. And one of the things I tried to talk about is the golden rule is you treat people how you want to be treated. I didn't invent this. It's been around for a while, but the way it applies here is if you want people to open their minds to you and to engage constructively with you, it really helps to open your mind to them and just listening, making this initial gesture. This is at relatively the start of that journey, the beginning of that tool set. Now, one of the culminations of that tool set is something I call the power of persuasion. Not the power of persuasion, but the power of the power of persuasion. And this is an idea where if you have someone say something you really disagree with, you're like, what's going on there? The the impulse, the natural reaction is to say, you're wrong. That sounds wrong. That's stupid. And these are sort of childish impulses, but oftentimes politics boils down to that, and politics sounds like that nowadays. That makes it about you. It is how you are seeing it. And this is wrong to me, is what we're implying, but we never really say. And you can take a step from that, and instead of making it about you, instead of making it about this is wrong, you can make it about this is not resonating with me. This is limiting the other person's reach. This is limiting their message, their ability as a communicator. And when you're constructive, when you offer that as something that is helpful, and it takes some time to build up the trust and build up the tone of conversation where you're able to offer that and make it sound like advice and sound genuine, suddenly they're more receptive to it. Suddenly they start to think, well, what is it that's not resonating? How is it that I can make this more resonant? And when you're doing this collaboratively, when you are doing this not to defeat the other person, but to help each other learn from each other, suddenly you enter into a completely different realm of conversation. And that is, I think, what people can do through
Yeah.
some of the tools that I share.
Thank you so much for the insight. It all goes back to understanding. When we are trying to meet someone that is from a very, very different background, we need to learn and understand such person. We need to open up and see the perspective of that person. There will definitely be disagreements, but with time, we will understand each other. It might take time, but when we do it on, the understanding and every single thing starts to click. And that is what we need to do. We don't need to stick on one rule. We need to start to understand people so we could understand how we could make a very good dialogue. I would like to go to the point of mistake. Little mistake. When it's in a conversation, you and I will agree. A little mistake in a conversation can take hundreds, even thousands of people's life. That is how powerful a mistake, just a mistake in conversation, that is what it can do. So, what do you think are some common mistake that people make when trying to win a conversation? And how do you think this kind of mistake can be avoided from your experience, Mr. Nathan?
Um, well, I think there's a very big mistake in that people make in trying to win a conversation, and that is trying to win a conversation. That itself is the mistake. If you go in trying to win, well, suddenly it's a competitive game. Suddenly, well, the other person wants to win too. So what are you fighting? Who decides who wins? You say you win, the other person says they win. You're going to disagree. You're going to disagree on that. And you know, it, there is no actual winning to be found because you either feel like you've won and the other person's ego is bruised and they dislike you and they push back against you, or you feel like you've lost and you're in that position. Um, and if you instead go in trying to learn, if you go into every conversation thinking, well, I can learn from this person's perspective, I want to know more about that, you suddenly start winning all of them. And then your partners in conversation are also winning. And so it goes from this zero-sum competitive game to a collaborative game. And yeah, so it's trying to win the conversation is very natural from the way we're used to thinking about politics, but it is one of the biggest mistakes you can make.
Yeah, so we have to make sure that we are going there not to say, I want to win. We are going there to make a dialogue. We are going there to understand each other, to learn from each other, and see what we can do to make things work. And that is how we could definitely avoid a lot of mistake, not going there to say, I want to win. And also, I would like to go back to we the people. We the people also have to know how we could try to adopt ourselves to have a respectful and a good conversation with people. So, from your experience, what do you think are some small habits one can do to adopt today, to start having more respectful and connecting conversations, Mr. Nathan?
Small habits are just pausing, listening, letting people speak a little. But all of it, I think, comes from the bigger mindset shift. And I think that is more valuable. It is ultimately wanting to learn from others, other perspectives, wanting to understand better how others think. So I go to a personal anecdote that sort of drives my way of thinking. I like to think of myself as very adaptable. I'm easygoing. I'm friendly with different people. These are usually positive things. I have a great aunt who is one of the most difficult people to talk to. She's arguing with people all the time. She's if she's unhappy about something, she'll immediately let you know, and she's very loud about this. And I, over time, as a child growing up, I'm like, oh, why is this person like this? And then I start to hear stories. My family came from the Soviet Union. Why did they leave the Soviet Union? It's very difficult to leave the Soviet Union because someone in the family said, I don't want to be here anymore. We are getting out of here. And that someone who pushed the hardest was my great aunt because she didn't settle for it. And my grandparents moved. They moved somewhere cold, the New York, New Jersey area. After they reached retirement age, they were having difficulty with the winters. And it's hard when you're older to get up and leave. But she was the one, once again, who said, this is not healthy for us. This is killing us being here. We need to go to Florida. Let's go where it's sunny and prices are good right now. We can retire. This is the time to move. She took action. And just understanding that this person who is so different from me added so much to my life, that this perspective that is so different from mine adds so much to just the quality of my life and to where I am today, gives me that motivation to understand different perspectives, to gain from different perspectives, to listen to different perspectives, to check me. Because even if I think what I'm doing or the way that I'm going about things is right, it helps me to understand my ideas, to better my ideas when I welcome a different voice.
It takes 100% courage to say, I won't be here and I want it to be here. It takes a lot. And I'm very proud of your grandma to stand to that point. It's very, very huge. It shows, and it is one of the main reasons why we are having a conversation today. You are living better now and everything are at least going fine, which is very impressive on its own way. So have to 100% try to understand ourselves and also know how we could build reliable conversations. I think that is where things will help us. And standing our ground is good, but we have to now to leave this kind of openness, which will help us have a very good dialogue. From back to your book, Mr. Nathan, Common Ground from the Ground Up. If listeners could take one truth from your book, what do you think it should be about real power of everyday conversation, Mr. Nathan?
The biggest truth is just there's always more to learn, and you gain by learning. And this is, at the core of it, this motivation. It's not when it feels like a chore to engage in civil conversation, when you're told, no, 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 no. I know you want to fight for these things, but you have to be polite. When it feels like compromising, when it feels like holding back, people don't want to do that. They shouldn't want to do that. These are important issues that we're talking about that affect many lives. And ultimately, it is that point that we gain from listening, that we ourselves can be the best communicators we can be, even if we're not the loudest communicators we can be, that we can make our message as resonant, that we can make our message more powerful um, by approaching it a different way, by thinking about the conversation in a more positive and a more constructive and a more collaborative mindset. I think that is the core of my message, that this is not, a moral call for civility for the sake of civility, that this is a way for readers to be the best advocates for their beliefs that they can be, to be the best communicators that they can be, and to be heard, to be part of the positive change that they want to see.
Sure, 100%. I do know, and I do know how powerful conversation is. I do know the damage it can do, and I do know the good it can do. And we have to know how to use it well. If we could have a very good conversation, if we could know how to make conversation, know how to make dialogue, settle a lot of conversation, try to learn and understand people, I think we really, really do great in life, even politically, socially, and even in the community. Because I think that is one of the things that we are lacking today, which cause a lot of conflicts today. Understanding each other background. We just need to understand, oh, they don't like this. All right. If we do not like it, let us see how we could understand ourselves and see how we could create some sense of dialogue to make things better. Conversation is powerful, and we have to know how to use it well. So every single person will live a more happier, good life. Mr. Nathan, there is a question I normally ask during the end of the show. From our forefathers, there are a lot of things that do exist during our forefathers' time, our ancestral time, that is missing in our time today. If there is anyone or anything you would like to bring back to our time today, Mr. Nathan, what do you think that thing would be, Mr. Nathan?
I think this has only been in certain times in history. It is the sense of wonder. When we sort of first began into the Renaissance age, into these different industrial revolutions, there's a sense of possibility and a sense of we are just beginning to touch all this knowledge, and we have so much more to learn. I always talk about curiosity, and I think that's the core driver of so much positive behavior and positive activity. And I think it goes back to that. Now, one thing I actually do talk in the book, our ancestors didn't necessarily um, always get along, especially on a social level. Politically, they work together sometimes more effectively than our politicians today. But as far as people understanding each other, this didn't always happen. It's not like it was so much better in the long past because these people in bubbles, they were physical. There's physically, you're not going to interact with the different mindsets. We couldn't be having a conversation 100 years ago because we're simply physically too far apart. Um, and so what we have to realize is, no, this is our first opportunity to engage with all these different perspectives and all across the world and digitally, instantly, so fast to hear all these different ideas and all these different worldviews. And that's new and that's exciting. And that is something we should embrace to the fullest and certainly take what lessons we can have, but realize that this is very new opportunity that is in front of us right now.
Yes. Opportunities are always everywhere. We need to find it and know how we can use it well. Even the tools we have today, we are using it well. And that is why we are having more productivity and we're impacting people's life in one way or the other. And that is how we should use it. If we use it well, it will last. But if it is otherwise, that's just the issue. We need to know how to create some kind of conversation, dialogue that will help us grow, help us improve, and help us better. It's for the betterment of us and for the betterment of the community and the surrounding we find ourselves. We should use it the right way and have conversation that will help us to become a better person. From the bottom of my heart, I want to honestly, Mr. Nathan, thank you for the patience, most especially the time, the opportunity you've given me to have this conversation. It's a very important one, and I honestly want to thank you for that. Thank you so much, Mr. Nathan.
Thank you so much. I very much appreciate this opportunity as well.
All right, Mr. Nathan. Have a wonderful day, Mr. Nathan. Bye bye.
And you as well. Take care. Bye.